Sorry, my mic was muted. Didn't realize my mic was muted. We're almost at 8,000 subscribers. Can we get to 8,000 subscribers today? That would be sick. If we got to 8,000 today. Sorry, my mic was muted. Didn't realize my mic was muted. We're almost at 8,000. You don't want to play that back? There should be sound. What do you mean? Guys, what are you talking about? You should be able to hear me clear. Can you hear me? Hello! Can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? All right, good.
A federal judge in Rhode Island said the Trump administration has...
What's going on, everyone? Not super prepared for this one. But we'll figure it out the best that we possibly can. Get this going here. Trump went absolutely crazy on Elizabeth Warren yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw it. Guys, is my volume loud enough? We're good, right? My volume's loud enough, right?
Are you going to continue that? You have
No, I had no plans.
Mr. President, regarding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, have said that by freezing it, it's giving big banks and giant corporations the green light to scam families.
Pocahontas, the faker. That was set up to destroy people. She used that as her little personal agency to go around and destroy people. And she's a fake. Just like she said she was an Indian, and she wasn't an Indian. You have more Indian blood in you than she has. She went to college based on the fact that she was an Indian. She got jobs based on the fact that she was an Indian. She's a fake. That was set up to destroy some very good people, and it worked. I mean, it worked. A lot of great people. I'll tell you, before I ever heard the term, people would come up to me in the Midwest and areas that say, "Sir, I'm being destroyed by them." They use that to destroy people. She's a nasty woman. She's a really nasty woman, despite her phony beer commercial. We did the right thing. That was a very important thing to get rid of. And it was also a waste. I mean, number one, it was a bad group of people running it, but it was also a waste. If you looked at when she really ran it, wow, that was a vicious group of people. They really destroyed a lot of people.
And you can confirm it's your goal is to have it totally eliminated, the agency?
I would say, yeah, because we're trying to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse.
What's next?
And didn't I hear that somebody made like $38 million or something running a little agency? What was her name? What was her name? And what did she do? And what was that all about? All the money that she made? Does anybody know? Okay. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Good to see you.
So that was not good. That was not cool. I don't, Liberty. I was pretty annoyed by that yesterday. But I wanted to tell everyone, you guys, so this is like the main thing. Like, YouTube's obviously a big deal. If you get big on YouTube, you make it. I appreciate your support. You guys can become members now. So there's different tiers. You can become a tadpole, you can become a Muppet Masher, or if you really want to support me, you can become a mastermind of Muppetry. You basically get a badge next to your name color changes. When you do it, I know who's who, obviously the chat and all that. So it actually acknowledges you more than it does on TikTok. And there's also super chats, right? There's also super chats where you can actually donate a super chat and it sends money, and then it puts your name on the top of the live there. So I have super chats. You'll see it in a little money symbol, and then I also have the membership. I freaking love you. Like, I love YouTube. Like, I'm really going to enjoy this over the next year. I really do. I like it a lot. I like the format better. I like doing this better. Yeah. Yeah, I got access to subs. I got monetized. Even my videos are monetized now. So that's pretty cool.
Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved hundreds by bundling our home and auto insurance.
Welcome back.
I'm just happy to be getting ahead of the curve, because TikTok is obviously going to die, and so I want to get ahead of the curve here. Plus, I like watching the news with you guys and all that. We should have been here. We should have, but here's the thing. TikTok before the ban was a good way. Like, I had built up an audience on there, so I'm still in the process of pulling people over here as much as I can, but Micro Kimmy, thank you for the super chat. Says the reason why Trump will not endorse Vance is because Trump sees himself running for a third term. Kimmy, you are 100,000% correct. That is exactly why. Kimmy. 100%. That is exactly why. Andrea, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher. Andrea, appreciate you, Andrea. Alicia, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher. Alicia, love you both. Love you both. Thank you so much to both of you. Helen, thank you for becoming a Muppet Master. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Is he paused? No, I am not paused. Amanda, thank you for becoming a tadpole. So that question that Micro Kimmy asked here was the reason why Trump will not endorse Vance because he sees himself running for a third term. That's exactly why. That is all this is about. Running for another term. He's not gonna run. He's just gonna eliminate the 22nd Amendment and say I'm doing another term. So that's more or less what we should be concerned about. But I just think it's funny because he kissed his ass so much and he still didn't get a fucking endorsement, and we're only 3 weeks into the administration, dude. I find that to be hilarious. Hopefully Rational, thank you so much. Hopefully Rational, what's going on? Thank you so much. Appreciate you, hopefully. Thank you for the $50 super chat, hopefully. Appreciate you, hopefully. Dawn, thank you for becoming a mastermind of Muppetry. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that, Dawn. Mastermind of Muppetry. Thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate that. We have two or three mastermind of Muppetry. Thank you, Dawn. Kells, thank you for becoming a Muppet Master. Appreciate you. Big W, Dawn, in chat for becoming a mastermind of Muppetry. W in chat for hopefully. Appreciate both of you. All right, so let's get into this really quick, and I want to talk about this because this is pretty. This is significant. Okay, because this, like Micro Kimmy said, is less about not being rewarded for kissing Donald Trump's ass, but more about the fact that this guy wants to become a dictator, ladies and gentlemen. We've long suspected he wants to be a dictator. How many people in here, and I want you to give me an honest answer, pretend that you are quite literally hooked up to a lie detector. Do you think Donald Trump is going to attempt to do another 4 years? I want you to be honest. Do you think Donald Trump is going to attempt to do another 4 years? Just be honest. Yes, no, you can say no. I know it seems like it's impossible, but do you honestly believe that this guy is going to attempt to do another 4 years? My answer is going to be yes. I'm going to say yes. I believe 100% Donald Trump is going to attempt to do another 4 years. I, from the bottom of my heart, believe that. Do we have any no's? Okay, so Krista says attempt yes, succeed no. Okay. Not Tay says no. No, because he won't make it that long. All right, so here's my thoughts, everybody. The only thing that stands in between him doing that is Congress. Is a constitutional amendment. He can't eliminate the 22nd Amendment. But what if the Supreme Court rules that the president has the unilateral authority or reinterprets it some way or something like that? Now, getting rid of the 22nd Amendment, do you think he would do another 4 years? That's what I want to ask you. Do you think without the 22nd Amendment he would do another 4 years? Of course. Of course he would. Does he want to do another 4 years is the question. Yes. So if you believe he wants to do another 4 years, then understand he's going to do another. I truly believe it is a strong possibility that Donald Trump is the president more than 4 years from now. And I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. So there you go. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart. From the bottom of my heart, I believe that. I hate to say that. I wish I wasn't even saying that, but I am.
Now to the border, a memo from ICE was leaked, and that memo revealed...
It's all up to who so we're talking about the Supreme Court again. You know, the Supreme Court is... the Constitution's only as important as those interpreting it. We've gone over this multiple times. I think it's out of the realm of possibility that these Muppets try and get him in there. Here's what it's going to come down to. Whether or not they think he does a good job. If they think he does a good job, if they think he did a good job, I think they're going to have his back. I think he's going to have enough support to do this. I think there's a strong possibility Donald Trump is the president 4 years from now. I believe that.
Details of a planned crackdown on illegals in Los Angeles. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says she believes the FBI leaked it. Noem posted this on X.
By the way, I want to tell everybody in here, not somebody, everybody in here. I'm also in talks to speak to an immigration attorney on this YouTube live. So just so you know, I am in talks to speak to an immigration attorney. I'm wondering if I should switch my Patreon. It's totally up to you, Jessica. Both support a lot, so either one, Jessica, either one supports, both Patreon and this support. I really want to have a conversation with this person. I'm trying to get them on here. It looks like that's going to be the case. It's an immigration attorney to come on, answer some questions for people. And what I'm going to try and do is allow some of you to ask the immigration attorney questions. So that's coming. I just want everyone to know I'm working on that now. That's probably going to be the first guest.
The FBI is so corrupt. We will work with any and every agency to stop leaks and prosecute these crooked deep state agents to the fullest extent of the law, writes the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. It comes days after a similar leak happened for a raid in Aurora, Colorado, where several Tren de Aragua gang members were allegedly able to escape capture because of the leaked memo. Joining me now is U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan. Tom, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. And
this guy's one of the most dangerous people in politics right now. This guy right here, Tom Homan. One of the most dangerous people we have in our government right now.
Thanks for all of your...
Caitlin, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher, Caitlin.
...efforts. That's number one. You were at that Colorado raid. Tell me what happened. Do you believe the FBI is behind leaking your plans and allowing these maniacs, these Tren de Aragua gangsters, to escape capture?
Trendy Awagwa gangsters. Oh my fucking God. Could you fearmonger anymore, lady? Seriously.
Well, yeah, the Aurora operation was leaked. We think we found the source of the leak. It's under investigation right now by DHSIG. Secretary Noem, I agree with her that there's some information that tends to...
Hey, didn't they arrest... Hey, we need to look into this. We didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday. Chat, maybe you can tell me. Didn't they accidentally arrest American citizens yesterday? Didn't they accidentally arrest American citizens yesterday? Didn't that actually happen? Was that yesterday or Friday or something? I didn't dream that, right?
Show that the second leak in the California operation...
There was a bunch of American citizens so far that have been falsely arrested based off tattoos they had and the color of their skin. Disgusting. This is exactly what... How many times did we talk about this on the live stream leading up to the election, people? How many of you watched me spend hours nonstop warning people that this was going to happen? And everyone said I was fear-mongering, I was exaggerating, I was this, I was that, I'm a liar, I'm a piece of shit. How many times did I say this was going to fucking happen? How many times? Micro Kimmy, thank you so much. As judges can enforce the law through court-martialing them, but who's in charge of the marshals? The DOJ. One of our states needs to file charges against Elon and arrest him. You can't pardon state charges. So, Micro Kimmy, this is a good point, okay? You're talking about what's the enforcement mechanism of the judicial branch of the government. There is no direct enforcement mechanism for the judicial branch of the government without the cooperation of the executive branch. The judicial branch relies on the cooperation of the executive branch, correct, under the DOJ, under the control of Donald Trump. So, again, this is where we are headed full speed into a constitutional crisis. This is something we've talked about before. We rely so heavily on these checks and balances. Now they're being tested. Now they're actually being tested. I think another option, if you had the capability to do so, which you don't right now, which would be to impeach him. If they refuse to cooperate, you could certainly, that would be grounds for impeachment. I mean, you're not upholding your oath to your oath. I mean, you 100% could be impeached. But it is a very good point that the judicial branch doesn't necessarily have a direct enforcement mechanism without being reliant on the cooperation of the executive branch of the government.
May have been someone in the FBI.
And again, remember, Donald Trump wants, this is unitary executive theory, eliminating any kind of interference, any kind of congressional authority. And, the executive branch gets to make these decisions on whether or not they cooperate. We are already in one. No, so it can get worse than this. Okay, when there is a true when they refuse to cooperate, it undermines the entire system. That's when you're going to start seeing people lose faith in their government. I mean, completely lose faith in the system. What does it matter at that point? That's the point where I hope people are going to step up. Because enough will be enough. If they're not going to uphold their oath, then we, the people, need to remove them, right? Donald Trump should be impeached. He already should be impeached. He already should be impeached. The things he's done via executive order, he knows, are unconstitutional, trying to unilaterally eliminate the amendments in the Constitution. He doesn't have the authority to do that. Micro Kimmy says, how do I become a member? Link. So, chat, someone tell Kimmy how you do it in there. I think you have to do it through your browser. You go to youtube.com and you'll see on the front. But there should be a thing there to do it. If someone can tell her how to do that or how you did it.
I've talked to the Deputy Attorney General. We talk every day, but this weekend we talked about he has opened up a criminal investigation into that leak. So when we find these people and we have the evidence to support a prosecution,
he doesn't have the authority to do anything he's doing. He's just throwing shit against the wall and he's trying to see what sticks. This is what we talked about before. Probing the system to see what he can get away with, right? Checking for vulnerabilities. I said there would be, it's like a, there's like two waves, right? One is I'm going to do this by executive order and hope that something sticks, right? Something sticks. And then when that doesn't work, I'm going to try and get things in front of the Supreme Court. With a conservative majority Supreme Court, maybe they reinterpret certain amendments in the Constitution. If that doesn't work, then it's just a complete takeover. I think they will eventually do things by force. That's where I think we're headed. Dawn said I had to go through my browser desktop version. So you have to go through your browser. So you got to go to youtube.com. That's basically what it is. There's nothing we can do to help people. Thank you, Micro Kimmy, for the $1.99, by the way. Radical says, there's nothing we can do to help people like Luis Rivera. Is there because he's in Gitmo? Can we force the government to release names of everyone in Gitmo? I wish we could. I don't know if something like that would be covered under the Freedom of Information Act, but remember, the problem is, right, is that this is the location is going to create complications constitutionally. So I honestly do not know the answer to that question, but I'd be curious if they would be obligated to do so under the Freedom of Information Act.
exactly what's
If we knew the individuals' names, like this is what I talked about before, are we going to just get a list? I don't know that we could get a list. I think we should have the right to that information, but I don't know that we're going to get a list. Maybe at some point. I don't know. You're saying this guy that you're saying Tom Homan sounds like Joe.
going to happen. They don't
You can do it in the app as long as you're logged in. All right.
understand. I don't care what their political beliefs are. This isn't about politics. This is about the safety of our officers. It's only a matter
What's up, Johnny?
of time if these leaks continue that our officers are going to walk into a place and be ambushed by someone who just don't care about life and are going to take these ICE officers on.
What a weird interpretation of that kind of reaction. It's not that they don't care about life, Tom. It's that they do care about life. That's how bad it is. Why do you think people are so desperate to come here? Because it's that bad elsewhere. That's why they come here. Because it's that bad elsewhere. Doesn't that speak volumes that people are willing to do that to stay in this country? And by the way, doing this under the guise that these are all criminals they're arresting is so disgusting. These are not criminals they're arresting. They're doing this. They'll arrest someone who's a violent offender and then use that as an excuse to arrest a bunch of people who didn't commit a single violent offense.
It's already a dangerous job. Giving the bad guys a head up we're coming is going to just make the job much more dangerous. We're taking it serious. It's under criminal investigation. Those who are responsible will be held criminally responsible, and we'll prosecute them.
That's unbelievable. What are you going to do to keep your raids quiet? I mean, you know, now you know somebody on the inside is leaking your plans, and you can't have that.
No, and that's why we're going to take serious action, and it's under criminal investigation. I think once that word gets out and we're making it known, we're going to prosecute. We don't care if you carry a badge or gun or not. You will be criminally prosecuted, and we'll lock you up. So, look, we're keeping the plans real tight. You know, I said from day one.
This is going to get real. I'm telling you, this is going to get ugly. This is already ugly. This is about to get uglier. Jessica Ratner, thank you for becoming a Muppet Master, Jessica. Appreciate you, Jessica. I just Googled it, and Adam's right. We don't have the right to a list of everyone in Gitmo. This is horrible. They could have kids in there. So, I don't know if it's just because it's in Gitmo or just because we wouldn't have a right, but I would wonder if that would be technically... We should have a right to the information at some point. I don't know if there would be a time frame in which we can obtain that information, but I would think ultimately we'd be allowed to have that information. But this is what I talked about before, everybody. Okay? When you get sent to Gitmo, no one's coming to save you. That's why we have to put our foot down for everyone and say this is unconstitutional. This should not be allowed. You can't just think about yourself, because if you're sent there, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to help you. This is why you can't be selfish. You have to stick up for these people. Understand, they will eventually come for you. Gary, thank you for the $1.99 super chat, Gary. Appreciate you, Gary.
We want to be transparent with the American people that we truly are concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. So we had some media ride-alongs. Bill Malusian did the Aurora. But, we're keeping things close hold now. We're reevaluating, how much media ride-along we want.
YVE260, thank you for becoming a tadpole, YVE.
I'm not pointing the finger at him. We can't show any leaks by the friendly media, but we're looking at everything to.
The friendly media? What was that? You telling on yourself again?
How much media ride-along we want? I'm not pointing the finger at him. We can't show any leaks by the friendly media.
Yeah, you telling on yourself again, are you?
But we're looking at everything but here's what people need to understand. We're going to keep coming. This is not going to slow us down. In sanctuary cities, you want to put roadblocks up? We'll double the manpower in sanctuary cities. We'll double the targeting.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So state law enforcement fighting with federal law enforcement. Yeah, this is going to work out wonderful. Yeah, this is a great idea. This is going to get ugly.
In sanctuary cities. If we can't get them out of their home, we'll get them at the workplace. We're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold. We are not walking away. We're coming. We're not going to be stopped. We're going to keep President Trump's promise on looking for those who are in the country illegally that are a public safety threat. Nothing will stop us from doing this job.
Well, that's terrific to hear because people are afraid of these dangerous gangs. Look, Kristi Noem also sent a letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and she's requesting that the IRS provide agents for immigration enforcement. She says they can help with investigating illegal employment and money funding, human trafficking. They can also assist with arresting, detaining, and transporting migrants, Tom. Tell me about this because I know
Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Radical, appreciate you.
Joe Biden hired tens of thousands of IRS agents to try to look under every rock and audit all American citizens so that he can get more money raised through.
I don't understand why this isn't like we're not seeing nonstop coverage about the American citizens that were arrested. Like, shouldn't that be, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen articles on it and stuff, but like, they should be blowing that up right now.
Tax audits. How are you going to transition those people to become border agents?
Well, it's really not that difficult.
Rye Toast, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher. Rye Toast.
Go for the.
Is it Weary Toast or Rye Toast?
IRS special agents who carry a badge and gun, they can certainly help on these operations. It only takes one immigration official with Title 8 authority, immigration authority, to make that arrest. But we can always use more armed officers to watch the perimeter, watch the back door. And certainly the non-officers in IRS, they can do keystrokes. They can sit there and process an illegal alien for us, and that takes a badge and gun out of that processing office and put them on the streets, which increases the manpower in the streets, increases the number of teams on the street. So they can be a force.
I can't imagine seeing your parent before school, coming home, and no parent, where did they go? I know. Sad.
Multiplier in many ways.
Look, I spent unlimited amount of time, and this isn't to pat myself on the back. This is just to point out the fact that what I was saying was true. So I wasn't. It's important that you understand this. You build credibility as you go when you speak on these political issues. If you watch me every day, I talk nonstop about this going down exactly like this, and they tried to gaslight you and tell you this wouldn't happen. So if you're someone on the right or you're someone in the middle or you didn't believe me before, I really highly encourage you to start considering that these people are not the good guys.
I agree with the secretary. We can use them in law enforcement and investigative capacity to chase the money, right? These criminal cartels count on the money they make. That's how they buy off Mexican officials. That's how they pay off, the corrupt customs officials. So chasing the money, IRS, great work. But they can also help in operations with their law enforcement presence. And those who aren't law enforcement officers, there's many jobs we could put them in where we can take a badge and gun out of a non-enforcement job and put them back on the street. So there'll be a force multiplier. I agree 100%. But let's put them to work.
That's great. I mean, it's a good idea. Look, the last time we spoke, you were in an undisclosed location. And, we knew that it was a very sensitive operation. I mean, this is obviously partly it was leaked. We didn't do it, but you were in an undisclosed location. I didn't say where you were. And I asked you a question. I said, are you going to be able to bust up these networks that have already created huge businesses in America? Because the drug cartels, you know, they charge everybody to get over the border. They put them inside the border, but then they have to keep paying those drug cartels, and they have...
Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Close that chat and hit the thumbs up button to help boost Adam. Yeah, so you guys can hit the thumbs up button. It really does help the live if you hit the thumbs up button. Of course, becoming a member, super chats, all those things help.
Actually started businesses here in America. I'm talking about drug trafficking business. And
yeah, this is Fox propaganda, but this is why I like to break it down. Show people how much bullshit this is. And honestly, like, it's effective. It really is. I wish I would have done this earlier. Why so much trash talk about him? What do you mean, Carnivore? You mean about Trump?
And even worse, human trafficking going on in America. How
or are you talking about Tom Homan? Because if you mean why are people trash talking Tom Homan, is because he's organizing an operation that's breaking up families right now. So it's responsible for American citizens who have been arrested. It's responsible for profiling, etc.
How substantive is that?
And he's a full-blown bigot. I'm just going to be honest.
You know, how persistent is that? And are you busting any of them?
Yes,
this is the guy in charge of all of this. Yeah, Carnivore, this is the guy in charge of all of this. This is Tom Homan. This is the guy responsible for what's happening. He's in charge of this immigration deportation operation. He's the head of all of what's happening right now. So people are pissed at him.
Trafficking investigations are up over 300%, so we're on top of that. Not only human trafficking investigation, but the cartel's presence in our major cities in the country. So it's just not trend to...
We need to know what they're doing, though. You know what I mean?
Look, I'm not going to be happy to every single member of Trend Agua out of the country. We're going to eradicate them from the United States, along with the other criminal cartels who are taking them.
The problem is, and what they're doing the most, is that they're basically using these gangs and this the violence and stuff to deport people that aren't. You notice how they're not discussing deporting people that aren't doing those things. This is all to scare the American people. This is to get you afraid, and this is what he's broadcasting to millions of people every single day. And this is why 100% why we have people get on board with these operations. Carnivore says, is there proof he's breaking them up? Carnivore, yes, there's proof. You're seriously asking if there's proof? You're asking if there's proof? Dear God.
Presence in every major city. There used to be the day they just smuggled the guns into, smuggled the narcotics into the United States.
Carnivore, did you just wake up from a long nap or something? Seriously, did you just wake up from a long nap? No. You're not just asking a question, Carnivore, because all of this stuff is happening, coming in with this like disingenuous like attitude, like, oh, is there any proof that they're breaking the law? Okay, let's talk about it. Do you know why they're deporting people to Gitmo, Carnivore? Do you know why specifically they're using Gitmo instead of expanding like a detention facility in the United States to house undocumented immigrants that they're going to deport? Because it's outside of the territorial sovereignty of the United States, so they don't have to give them constitutional rights. Okay? Do you think that's a problem? Do you have a problem with the fact that it's unconstitutional and highly illegal to house people indefinitely in Guantanamo Bay? That's breaking the law right there. Do you know arresting undocumented immigrants and not giving them the right to have a legal representation is breaking the law? Do you know that not giving them a Fourth Amendment right is breaking the law? Do you know they have the right to remain silent? Do you know they don't need to turn themselves in? You know raiding places without warrants is unconstitutional? Shall I go on?
And then our gangs, United States gangs, would do the distribution. They are now in every major city in the country. They've taken over even the interior distribution networks of the narcotics trafficking. They're on top of our list. We're working very close with DEA. DEA side by side with us on this interior enforcement operation along with the FBI. So yes, we're targeting those trafficking organizations both with humans and drugs. You're going to see a huge decrease in the amount of that trafficking going on in the country. Look, the border numbers right now, Marie.
How do you reply to someone in the chat? I think you just click their name or something. I don't know.
We're down 90%, which means less women and children being sex trafficked in the United States, less fentanyl is getting in the United States to kill Americans, and less terrorists are crossing the border. President Trump, what he's done to this border already has significantly hurt the cartels. They're losing billions of.
So what they're claiming is that this deportation operation is actually causing people to turn around at the border. I don't believe that, but that's what they're saying. That they're getting information that these guys are turning around. That they're not even attempting to try and come in the country now.
Dollars a month because of what President Trump has done. We're going to suffocate these people. We're going to shut them down because if they don't have money, they can't bribe officials and they can't continue their business. So we're going to attack them, just not in the United States.
Yeah, you can use the @ button to reply. It highlights it for that person, but that's it.
Not just in Mexico, but worldwide. The illegal cartels in 43 countries around the globe. We're attacking them since President Trump has called them a terrorist organization. That opens up a wide net of what we can do with these cartels. We're on it. We're not going to.
I think part of the thing, too, is that people on the right believe that we're okay with violent offenders being in the country. I don't want people anywhere near my children that have committed violent offenses or murder or anything like that. But that's not what statistically is happening, right? Like, that's not who you're focusing on, and I'm not willing. So for the people in here that were questioning this, let me explain this, because maybe you didn't watch me on other apps prior to this, and I'll explain this to you the best way I possibly can, okay? Statistically, undocumented immigrants commit a very low portion of violent crime. Republicans are making it seem like all the undocumented immigrants are violent offenders, and they're using that as an excuse to violate their constitutional rights. I don't think the small percentage of undocumented immigrants that are committing violent crime is justification to demonize this entire population of people and then use these unconstitutional policies to remove them from the country. It hurts more people than it protects, right? Not only that, but we also have to talk about how costly it is, right? Look, they already talked about it's going to be more expensive. Tom Homan said yesterday, it's going to be more expensive than we originally thought, but is it worth it? I talked about this as well. $85 billion, $88 billion per 1 million people deported was the estimate by the ACLU, $345 billion annually. That number's going up, not down. They're having difficulty locating these people, right? They're having difficulty locating these people. Of course, now they're taking it out on local law enforcement and the American people, saying that they're harboring them. That's why they're trying to get people afraid enough to surrender undocumented immigrants. It is extremely expensive for the American taxpayer. And for the people talking about cutting spending, right, and trying to do, they're not doing it. I see you. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I see you. Appreciate you. I see you.
Stop till we finish it.
That's a great point. So what does that give you? The fact that now you are officially naming these drug cartels terrorist organizations? Because I mean, I've heard in the past.
Shit's really going to hit the fan when he decides he's going to go in to Mexico and go after these cartels.
That the Mexican drug cartels, they run Mexico. So you can do a deal with,
Yeah, the estimate is actually on the low end, right? So it was $88 billion per 1 million and $350 billion annually.
Oh, Claudia Sheinbaum and, the Mexican government.
April, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher, April.
But are they also answering to the dangerous cartels?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I've done this for over 3 decades. Like, even our vetted units, the units that we personally vet in Mexico, the Mexican federal agents, we don't even tell them everything because we don't fully trust many people in Mexico. And look, the cartels have survived for decades in Mexico. I'm not saying every military officer, every law enforcement officer, every politician is corrupt, but many are. And many are forced into corruption because if they don't take the buy off from the cartels, do what they want, they'll kill them and their families. We've seen thousands.
This is what we're talking about right here. So this is what gets people on board with an unconstitutional operation. You heard a number of Republicans talk to me before and say, well, prior to the election, and say, well, you know what? If you have to violate people's constitutional rights to protect my kids or protect my family, then do it. This is how you get them on board. April, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher, April. Matthew, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher too, Matthew. Matthew and April, appreciate you. And Got 420 Blunt, thank you for becoming a Tadpole. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thousands of journalists were killed in Mexico. We've seen thousands of politicians and government officials who have been murdered by the cartels. President Trump's move to make them
Is this for real? Yes.
terrorist organization and taking them on, I think it's going to make Mexico a much safer country, and it'll be a game change. Can you imagine the country of Mexico with no criminal cartels running that country, running the operations and killing so many people down there? I think Mexico would be blessed to have President Trump take the cartels out of business once and for all.
Well, you're absolutely right. So you say that the border crossings are down more than 90%. So then illegals, reportedly, they're turning around and...
Nothing cringes me out more when they say illegals. Can we leave the term illegals in 2024? People, let me explain something to you. You have got to stop using, number one, a singular characteristic to define human beings. It is disgusting. It's the same thing when racist people use the term blacks. Stop defining people by singular characteristics. People are not illegal to start with. The last time people were considered illegal was, during the Third Reich's final solution. Do you want to be compared to that? They are undocumented. They're not illegal. People can't be illegal. Start worrying about human rights first, and then everything else comes second. But stop defining human beings by a singular characteristic. That is something you should keep in your head constantly. That I will not define human beings by a singular characteristic. I can give you another example. Calling people who suffer from substance use disorder addicts. If you can get in your head that the first thing I need to think when I'm describing someone is not to describe someone by a singular characteristic, you will make tremendous progress. Do not define people by a singular characteristic.
Heading back. The officials are saying it's a new trend in Trump's border crackdown. They're not coming. Canadian police also caught more than a dozen illegal migrants trying to cross the border the north border, in below freezing temperatures, including 5 children, reportedly wearing, quote-unquote, inadequate clothing. This happening as President Trump's tariff threats are pushing Mexico and Canada to ramp up border enforcement. How significant has that been, Tom? What do you want to tell us about the assistance that now you're getting from Mexico and
You have to do it through your browser combo. That's how you become a member.
Canada with regard to their troops or however they're...
Adam, we can call them MAGA dummies, though. That's right. I guess, Daniel, yeah.
helping your efforts
I would still call them people, though. They're dumb people.
at the border.
Look, I think President Trump has proven with borders crossing down over 90%, Joe Biden could have done this. But, President Trump came in a matter of 2 weeks. 2 weeks have moved the border numbers down to numbers. The other day, Maria, less than 300. Less than 300. I've done this since 1984. I don't remember the numbers ever being less than 300.
No, I agree with you.
It's already a great process on the border. Canada, I met with the Canadian officials. They're doing more to secure.
Thank you, sir. I've been riding with you for years on TikTok, and I appreciate you, Combo. I know there's a lot of you that have, and I appreciate you so much.
The border up there. Look, I grew up on the Canadian border. I know that border very well. Canada's now stepping up. Of course, they're putting military in their border now.
A lot of good shit's coming on YouTube. We're going to do a tremendous amount of awesome shit over here. I'm trying to, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, we can do some chat roulette. I'm going to go through and talk to random people. Basically, the only thing I have to set up is how to block off the screen, because for some reason on that website, people like to display their banana, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I obviously, number one, don't want to see that myself, but I don't want it broadcasted to you either. So I have to black out my screen to make sure they want to debate politics. But you basically put a political hashtag, and you can go on these websites and just go through random people. And I'm just going to say, hey, why'd you vote for Trump? I'm just going to do that and just talk to random people and see what they say. I'm also setting up a thing for members where basically you can come in the live. You can go on camera or not, but you'll basically come in a server that I have. You're going to have access to it as a member, and you're going to be able to come up on the live when I take guests and ask questions and talk. So, yeah. You can have guests on YouTube. It's not about YouTube. I'm using OBS. So, yeah. So, basically, of course I can. I basically just set it up. How I do it in Tasha is I basically set up like a Discord or another type of server. and then I'm going to give the link to my members. And then during a segment on the live, I'm going to say, hey guys, I'm taking guests, I'm taking members to come up and talk. And then you guys will join a waiting list, and I just drag you in. You'll come up on camera, and then ask your question, talk for a little bit, and then I'll go to the next person. That's kind of how we're going to do it. I'm still working all of it out, but I have that part pretty much set up already. Micro Kimmy, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher, Micro Kimmy. We have 3 tiers: Tadpole, Muppet Masher, and Mastermind of Muppetry.
So President Trump has done great things from Mexico and Canada by the pure power of the presidential office. President Trump's a game changer, and he's proven it every day.
And Tom, I know that on average it was several thousand at the border every day, but
Tom, does he pat you on the head at the end of the night? Does he tell you you're a good boy and, like, you can sleep next to him if you...
I remember when there were all those people in Eagle Pass under the bridge, and we were talking about a peak of 11,000 people a day coming through the U.S. border.
No, you got to go to your browser, but there should be a thing that says join my channel, I believe it is.
Now you're telling me it's 300 people? We were up.
Yeah, I'm tiny on the screen because, look, I can go bigger. See? Hello? But I'm watching this, so that's why I'm up here.
Up to 11,000 a day.
11,000 down to 283. Because...
Wait, what was that? I didn't hear that.
1,000 people, several thousand at the border every day. But I remember when there were all those people in Eagle Pass under the bridge, and we were talking about a peak of 11,000 people a day coming through the U.S. border. And now you're telling me it's 300 people? We were up to 11,000 a day.
11,000 down to 283. Because of President Trump's actions. President Trump has proven every day he's a great president, greatest president in my lifetime.
Great job for you. Great job. Thank you, Tom Homan, and as well. Thank you, President Trump.
That totally was not true.
Good to see you, sir. We'll be watching your work. Thank you, sir.
You little liar, you. Jesus, man, that was fucking bad. Holy God. That was really bad. Yesterday, we had Donald Trump was basically... So, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm sure you have, Donald Trump keeps doing these, like, really fucking gross propaganda. I'm going to sign executive orders at night. He sits in the Oval Office and the press asks him questions. It's really kind of like... I'm okay with it because, like, I can then go over each executive order and we can talk about why they're bad. And we were doing some shit like that last night. But my God, it's pure propaganda. It's just pure propaganda. How can people watch this garbage and call it news? That's the funny part. People, I want you to think about this for a second. People sit down every single night in their recliner. I want you to think about this for a second, ladies and gentlemen. People sit down every single night in their recliner, okay? And they watch Fox News and they think it's news. They literally sit down with their, they eat dinner, or they eat dinner in their recliner, they eat it at the table, whatever. Then they go in their recliner with their tea or their coffee or whatever, and they watch this bullshit. No wonder this country is upside down. No wonder this country's backwards. No fucking wonder. So this was yesterday, during signing the executive orders, and he issues a direct threat to Hamas, including talking, of course, you guys know about the stuff with Gaza, but this was another big one.
Hamas was going to stop releasing Israeli hostages, and what was your reaction?
I think it's terrible. Look, I looked at the hostages that came in.
I really didn't believe originally that it's very hard to go to war. Like, I don't, nobody wants to go to war. You know what I mean? I just didn't think Trump is this close to getting us in conflict. This fucking close. And he's starting with multiple different groups, countries, even our allies at the same time. Canada, Mexico, Hamas. It's just, does he not understand that if all hell breaks loose and these countries decide they're no longer going to take this simultaneously, and you're trying to eradicate terrorist organizations and you're eliminating, you're actively bashing the countries that would otherwise support you, that, you could be in big trouble? It's almost like he's playing with fire and he doesn't care what happens. Like, you know, is he like, well, I'm 80 years old, so it doesn't matter anyway. I'm almost, you know, I'm at the end of my life anyway. Like, he's playing with our life here.
And they're emaciated. It looked like something out of the 1930s. It's an absolute disgrace. And I think they saw the way the world viewed it, and they're looking for a reason not to send more, because they're all, you take a look at that, it looked like it was a concentration camp, which essentially it was. It looks like they came out of the Holocaust. And what a sad thing. One of them was a young man, good-looking guy, a little bit heavier than perhaps he could have been, and now he looks like he's not even recognized.
Welcome back. Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell appearing before the Senate Banking Committee today and the House Financial Services Committee tomorrow. This is his semi-annual monetary policy report and report on the economy.
So all the confirmation hearings are on hold, right?
Committee Chairman Tim Scott set to grill Powell on debanking during the Biden administration, as well as Powell's plans to reform Basel III regulations and the record amount of regulations from federal banking agencies. Joining me now is the man himself, South Carolina Senator and Chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, Tim Scott. Mr. Chairman, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Oh, God.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Maria. Good to be with you. Thanks so much.
Tell us what's most important for you in terms of where you want to go with Jay Powell today.
Well, Maria simply said, under Jay Powell, the Fed has been...
It's been a great...
Ooh, Hegseth talked to the press. This will be good.
Day, really. Any day we can spend with the troops, from the very early morning of PT with some high-speed guys and gals to two COCOMs that are right in the front lines of advancing American interests. Proud to be here today. Just an impressive display of what Americans are doing.
This guy is one of the most dangerous, too.
In far-flung places for the American people. So proud to be here, for sure. I think we have a local. Where's our local reporter? I'd like to go first to our local.
Thanks so much. So,
Where are you from?
From Stuttgarter Nachrichten. That's the second biggest newspaper in Germany.
Well, it's my favorite now.
Thanks so much. You are visiting Africa as one of your first points in your duty. Does that mean that the American...
No, he's going to talk about Ukraine, and I'm really interested what he says about Ukraine.
strategic aims in Africa are going to change?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the importance of that command as well as EUCOM. We spent this morning at EUCOM as well. It made sense to come to both if we're here in Germany. But it's also a reflection that, you know, the PRC's intentions are pernicious, not just in their part of the world, but also in South America and on the African continent. And America's posture there, along with allies and partners, is going to matter about contesting that space. So it certainly remains a priority. You saw the strike in Somalia on February 1st. That, as we talk to the command, that's a reflection also of pushing decision authority down, untying the hands of warfighters who, in the previous administration, made multiple requests and were often denied for that kind of kinetic action, or the decision had to be made at the White House when it should be made at the 4-star level or at the Secretary of Defense level more quickly based on the ability to degrade the enemy. So this is a very important part of the world for us. The President feels that way as well, and we're honored to be here. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, are you planning to cut the number of American forces in Europe, shift to the Pacific, and focus on China?
There are no plans right now in the making to cut anything. There is a understanding that we're going to review force posture across the world, right? President Trump's planning assumptions are different in many ways, or at least
we're gonna resume. We're gonna do what? Forced posture?
Strategic assumptions than Joe Biden's were. We certainly don't want to plan on the back of the withdrawal from Afghanistan and what happened on October 7th and the war that was unleashed in Ukraine. You have to manage and mitigate those things by coming alongside your friends in Israel, ensuring their defense, and peacefully resolving the conflict in Ukraine. But those shouldn't define how we orient. And with hopefully a rapid peace deal in Ukraine, which the president is committed to delivering, we can then review force posture and encourage, as you're gonna see tomorrow in Ukraine at the Ukraine Contact Group and the NATO Ministerial, we're gonna have straight talk with our friends. This kind of urgency of this moment requires friends talking to friends about capabilities, about leadership, about stepping up, about burden sharing, and the incentives to say the European continent deserves to be free from any aggression, but it ought be those in the neighborhood investing the most in that collective, individual and collective defense. That's common sense, as the president talks a lot about. Common sense is you defend your neighborhood and the Americans will come alongside you in helping in that defense. If and when that happens, and I believe it will, because of President Trump, most NATO countries are already close to 2%. We believe that needs to be higher. The president has said 5%. I think he's right. That's a reflection of a need to invest on the continent. If and when that happens through investments in defense industrial base as well, then yes, America, as the leader of the free world, defending American interests, is going to need to make sure we're focused properly on the Communist Chinese and their ambitions in the Indo-Pacific and, as I mentioned before, around the world. So we would be remiss in not reviewing force posture everywhere, but it would be the wrong planning assumption to say, oh, America's abandoning something or America's leaving. No, America's smart to observe, plan, prioritize, and project power where we need to deter conflict. We don't want conflict with China. We don't want the president has ran on being a peace president, and he's delivered that. But being strong, peace through strength, is how you deter that. And we want to posture for that, just like we believe the Europeans, alongside our support, need to on the continent as well.
Is China the biggest threat to the United States?
Is China the biggest threat to the United States? This ought to be good.
Well, right now, the biggest threat was securing our own border, which we are addressing rapidly.
Yeah, that's nice. Answer the question.
And I'm proud of what Northcom has done and the Defense Department has done, is shifting there. You don't have a country if you don't have borders, as the president has pointed out. And we've been defending other people's borders for a long time. Time to defend ours. So we're sealing that border. We're continuing to doing that. But as far as external threats, there's just no doubt the Communist Chinese ambitions are robust. Their view of the world is quite different than ours. And whoever carries that mantle is going to set the tone for the 21st century.
You made a point to do PT with 10th group this morning on very little sleep. Why was it so important for you to do this? And tell us about the workout.
I did do PT with the troops this morning. Listen, it's not that long ago that I was right there with them. I probably, no offense, General, I probably connect more with those guys than I do with four-star generals. But now I get the chance of working with four stars and others who are committed to the troops. But when I can get down, do push-ups and deadlifts with the troops, and just hear from them, what's working, what isn't, how do you see your mission set? I love that. So there was never a doubt, even though we got in at 2 a.m, that we were getting up a couple hours later to go do PT. It's a reminder that you guys, the press in Washington, might think I'm young, but in military terms, I'm old. And that showed this morning with these young guys who ran circles around me in that parking lot.
Secretary Hegseth.
Go ahead.
Thanks for doing this. You mentioned earlier that President Trump wants NATO countries to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Do you think the U.S. should also spend 5% of its GDP on defense? Well, I think the U.S. needs to spend more than the Biden administration was willing to, who historically underinvested in the capabilities of our military. So the president is committed, as he was in the first term, to rebuilding America's military by investing. And you're going to see that in the conversations on Capitol Hill. We've already been intimately involved with the folks on HASC and SASC and the appropriations, talking about the capabilities we're going to need, not just next year and the year after that or for the next 4 years, but for power projection going forward. And then the reforms needed to make sure that every dollar goes further. Now, at a minimum, we should not go below 3%. That's a view I know the president shares. But as far as going forward in that, those are decisions he will make based on my consultations with him. Listen, any defense secretary would be lying if they said they didn't want more.
How long before this guy crashes out? I want an over-under right now, chat. Sorry, I'm dreaming right now about a fucking burger and fries. I don't know. I'm so hungry. I'm literally so hungry. Last night I went to the fridge. Sorry, my ADHD is getting a hold of me here. I went to the fridge and I realized, oh my God, I need to go grocery shopping. You know? Radical, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher. Appreciate you. Radical. You ever go to the fridge? Like, we got to do a little side note here. I need to know from everyone in here. You ever go to the fridge? You're hungry as shit. You go to the fridge and you open it and there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. And you were highly anticipating there would be a big-ass cheese steak or something, you know. Nothing. Not a fucking thing. My neighbor's flag says Trump 2024, the revenge tour. Oh, really? He's a big, fat, old white dude with a beater tucked into jeans and suspenders. I live in Texas, so there's a lot of here. I can imagine. I'm so tired of those Muppets, too. And I have no sympathy for them either. But I went to the fridge and there was nothing in there. Thank you so much for the $10, Kimmy. Appreciate you. For the super chat. Appreciate you. But yeah, I've done this before. And so, like, I realized I have nothing here. I don't know if it just slipped my mind or what. I was away for a couple days. Did you check 5 minutes later? I did. I actually checked again in 10 minutes and there was still nothing there. There was cheese, but the date was a little risky, the date, so I didn't do it. But I will say this. I'm dreaming right now about a big juicy burger and fries. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Jill, thank you for becoming a tadpole. Appreciate you, Jill. But let me say this really quick to everybody in here. Give me an over-under how long you think Hegseth lasts. I don't think this guy's doing 4 years. You can tell already, like, this dude's going to have a problem. I don't know what it's going to be. He's going to have a problem. He's got serious issues in his personal life. There's no way they don't bleed into the job. I don't trust this guy. I really don't. He's shady, dude. This is the kind of guy, like, this is the kind of face a guy would make. Like, when you're like, dude, I had $10 in my wallet, and there's 3 people in the room with you. This dude stole it. 100%. Like, he's the type of guy that would do some shit like that. He's the type of guy that, like, you work at a job. He's the employee that you work with at your job that gets you fired. This is the kind of guy that calls human resources on you. This is the kind of snitch that calls human resources on you, like, he called me a name. He said something rude to me. And they go to like, dude, why'd you fucking rat me out, Pete? I didn't, dude. I swear to God, fucking human resources called me in and they asked me, like, do I like you? And I was like, yeah, I love him, man. Like, he's a good employee. I swear, man. It wasn't me, man. And then at the unemployment hearing, they're like, yes, it was Pete Hegseth who gave us a detailed description of everything you're doing wrong, and that's why we fired you.
You always want more, but we live in fiscally constrained times where we need to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. We're $37 trillion in debt. That's a national security liability as well. So we're going to work with Capitol Hill. The president's going to lead the way on making sure the troops have the resources they need and that we truly rebuild our military just like President Trump did in the first term.
And President Biden vowed against sending U.S. troops into Ukraine. Would you be open to sending U.S. troops into Ukraine to track weapons shipments?
We are not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine.
You've talked about wanting to welcome Elon Musk and DOGE.
We are not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine. Right, because you're going to let Russia take Ukraine at some point.
Pentagon potentially in the next few weeks. Do you expect him to start unilaterally cutting programs and contracts the way he's done at USAID and other agencies? And are there any limits or supervision you'd want to place on his team given his conflicts of interest with Pentagon?
Well, we've been...
I love your random scenarios. They fit so well, don't they? I'm very imaginative.
I've been in touch with Elon Musk, who's a great patriot, interested in advancing the America First agenda, knows that President Trump got 77 million votes and a mandate from the American people, and part of that is bringing actual business-like efficiency to government, hence what DOGE is doing.
Scooby says until Elon gets hold of DOD, so that's going to be super interesting. I don't know how much they're going to cooperate with these 20-year-old dorks going in there and trying to audit them.
We've been talking to them in partnership with them, and as I said on social media, we welcome DOGE to the Pentagon, and I hope to welcome Elon to the Pentagon very soon, and his team, working in collaboration with us. There is There are waste, redundancies, and head counts in headquarters that need to be addressed. There's just no doubt. Look at a lot of the climate programs that have been pursued at the Defense Department. The Defense Department is not in the business of climate change, solving the global thermostat. We're in the business of deterring and winning wars. So things like that we want to look for to find efficiencies, and many others, the way we acquire weapon system, procurement. There's plenty of places where we want the keen eye of DOGE, but we'll do it in coordination. We're not going to do things that are to the detriment of American operational or tactical capabilities.
No, it's without any regard to. That's the problem. It's without any regard. So you're not giving it any consideration. You don't care whether or not there's climate change because you don't believe in climate change. That's why.
Capabilities. There's just President Trump is committed to delivering the best possible military. The Defense Department is not USAID. USAID's got a lot of problems that I talked about with the troops pursuing globalist agendas that don't have a connection to America first.
Really? They don't? What about the HIV/AIDS epidemic? That doesn't have anything to do with the United States? Do you think a global resurgence in HIV/AIDS would have anything to do with the United States? Maybe you don't think so because you want to close us in here, lock us in here with your little isolationist mindset. Close the doors, don't let anyone in and out. But do you think a global resurgence of HIV/AIDS would affect the United States? Because already we're seeing people affected by the freeze that can't get their HIV/AIDS medication in other countries. Yeah, I think a resurgence of HIV would absolutely have an impact on the United States. This guy doesn't know what USAID fucking does. He has no clue, and John Kennedy would be rolling over in his grave at Muppets like this, speaking on behalf of an agency that he doesn't even know anything about.
That's not the Defense Department, but we're also not perfect either. So where we can find billions of dollars, and he's right to say billions, inside the Defense Department, every dollar we save there is a dollar that goes to warfighters, and that's good for the American people.
Go with Logan with Newsmax. Mr. Secretary, since we're here at
Logan with Newsmax. Oh, God. Well, your name would be Logan.
Africa, I have a question about Africa. Now, when you served, you fought jihadists in the Middle East, and there's a lot of jihadists in Africa, whether it's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, go on and on. How do you plan to handle that? I'm not saying put troops on the ground in Africa to fight on
the American people.
Go with Logan with Newsmax. Mr. Secretary, since we're here at Africa, I have a question about Africa. Now, when you served, you fought jihadists in the Middle East, and there's a lot of jihadists in Africa, whether it's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, go on and on. How do you plan to handle that threat? I'm not saying put troops on the ground in Africa to fight them, but are you concerned that there could be some sort of cell that might be plotting attacks against other parts of the world, trying to recruit soldiers because it's Africa with a growing population? How concerned are you about the jihad threat in Africa today?
Definitely concerned. I mean, anybody of my generation that served in Iraq and Afghanistan or been a part of post 9/11 understands the threat.
Did we not learn from this stuff already? Why are we going backwards?
Of global jihad, especially the desire to export that against our allies in Europe or Israel or certainly the United States of America. So the counterterrorism threat focused on those who would seek to do us harm is of the highest priority.
Like, you guys saw the strikes on the caves, right? Like, what was the purpose of that? Like, those people, yeah, are they good people? No. Are they dangerous? Yeah. What kind of threat do they have to the United States? I don't know. Like, really? Like, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Like, this shit just seems like such a waste of money. Like, you have nothing else to do. So, like, yeah, I don't think that jihad should be really at the top of the list. I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I think we should be worrying about countries like China and authoritarians like Vladimir Putin attacking, countries with democratic principles and maintaining those democratic principles, not allowing authoritarian expansion. You know what I mean? China, their eye on Taiwan. Like, I don't, like, jihad, I mean, I don't know. Like, is it just me? It just doesn't seem like I guess, but, like, is that really a top issue? Is that really what we're talking about in 2025 with everything else going on? Meanwhile, China is developing, like, the most sophisticated AI in the world. China is beating us at every turn.
priority, which is why you saw what AFRICOM did so well in that strike in Somalia. Where we see those growing, plotting, or planning with increased capabilities, we will strike. And that
because no ifs, ands, or buts about it, China is one of the greatest threats to the United States, if not the greatest threat. And it's because of how sophisticated they are, their technology, how much it's advancing. They are light years ahead of us in almost every single category. They have a strong military. It's only a matter of time. It really is. And every single way, we're getting our ass whooped by them.
Pertains to Islamist organizations all across the continent. But it also, we have to work with partners and allies. I mean, foreign internal defense and security force assistance. I was with Green Berets this morning. You know, we think of Green Berets in the context of post 9/11, right? Kicking down doors, and they're really good at that. But what they're best at is doing security force assistance and foreign internal defense, where they work with local security forces to build up their capabilities so that it's indigenous forces fighting Islamists because they want to secure their country as well. And AFRICOM is very directly committed to doing that. That's a mission very much worth resourcing. And if
I don't disagree with that part.
I mean, Africa is very much the front lines of a fight from Islamists. You've got Christian populations that are under siege in Africa and have been ignored for far too long. And American interests there, it matters a great deal. And Islamists, we're not going to allow them to maintain a foothold, especially to try to strike at America.
We're going to finish up with two questions from these two local outlets. Sir,
okay, one more here and then here.
John Vander with Stars and Stripes. Also related to AFRICOM and Somalia, during the end of President Trump's...
How did that second part work out, though? Right? With the Taliban and then obviously Al-Qaeda. How did that work out for the United States? Not good.
First term, he elected to pull forces out of Somalia and switch to more of a rotational concept. President Biden sent troops back in there on a full-time basis. What's your vision going forward for Somalia? Do you want to maintain troops there continuously, or are you looking more towards pulling them back?
Well, I mean, I want to listen to the commanders on the ground, first and foremost, as does the president. I mean, he's charged me with, hey, give me your best advice, but also keep your ear to the ground of what's most effective. But he's also been very clear that we're not trying to have American boots all over the globe. Where we can do counterterrorism effectively over the horizon, that's the preference. But we'll review the force posture there with the generals doing the heavy lifting and take it into consideration, no doubt. But thankfully, we had the intelligence capabilities to do the kind of strike that we saw, and we believe we can do more of that.
Franz, last question.
So you renamed the name of Fort Liberty into Fort Bragg, and you honored a private first class who lost his life for liberating Germany. What does that mean for the U.S. forces?
Well, what the fuck?
First, it means.
Hold on, we gotta zoom in on this. That was the creepiest laugh I've ever seen in my life. What in the?
And you honored a private first class who lost his life for liberating Germany. What does that mean for the U.S. forces?
Whoa, slow-mo time, slow-mo time. All right, we got to slow that down, ladies and gentlemen. We have got to slow that down. Watch this.
Germany. What does that mean for the U.S. forces?
Oh my God, that is the dude. Did he just reveal he's the Joker?
What does that mean for the U.S.?
What the fuck?
Forces.
Whoa. If that wasn't creepy, I don't know what is.
Well, first it means Bragg is back. It means the legacy of an institution.
I pay attention to detail, you know what I mean?
that generations of Americans have mobilized through and served at is back. I mean, it's a shame what was done to vets, service members, their families, who were born there, deployed out of there, lived there, I was with airborne troops here, some of which spent 25 years at Fort Bragg. I never called it Fort Liberty because it wasn't Fort Liberty, it's Fort Bragg. And so I was honored to be able to put my signature on that. By the way, with the support of the President of the United States, who set the tone on this and said, I want Fort Bragg back. And we're honored to support a private first class who received a Purple Heart and the Silver Star at the Battle of the Bulge. We're honoring a private first class, and I'm proud that we have a
Me Too chaos.
Marine Corporal is the Vice President of the United States too. Junior enlisted have never seen better days. But it's about that legacy. It's about the connection to the community, to those who've served. And we're not, as the President has said, and I've said as well, we're not done there. There are other bases that have been renamed that erodes that very same legacy. There's a reason I said Bragg.
Micro Kimmy, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. By the way, thank you for everybody sending super chats. I appreciate you. Thank you for people becoming members. I would really appreciate if you guys support the shit out of this channel so we can get going over here. We're so close to 8,000 subscribers. Kimmy says, do you think that they're bringing back the draft? So we haven't had a draft since 1973, right? Vietnam War. I don't think that we're at that point yet, but what I will say is this: I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that by the end of this administration, it's a thing, that it's a mandatory thing. I don't think it's out of the question. I will say, if it wasn't for, I don't think we ever would have seen a draft again had Donald Trump not gotten reelected. It's been a long time, like I said, the mid-1970s, early 1970s. But I think with this administration, I think by the end of this 4 years, I think it's very much a possibility. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but I'd say there's a strong possibility by the end that it could happen, yeah.
Bragg and Benning, when I walked into the Pentagon on day
prior to Trump getting elected, I would have said never.
One, but it's not just Bragg and Benning. There are a lot of other service members that have connections, and we're going to do our best to restore it. It's an honor to do so. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Wow, that was interesting. That was interesting, to say the least.
Senator John Kennedy, Republican out of Louisiana. Sir, good morning to you. I don't know if you thought you would ever live to see the day where Washington would go in the other direction. Now, the judges are slowing it down. It takes some time to move through the courts, but this is going to happen. Do you believe it will be enough to exact change permanently in Washington, D.C.?
I certainly hope so. Here's what I see. Look, I'm unapologetically with Trump and Musk. Now, among the blue hairs and the opinion writers in Washington, we're losing. We're winning with the American people. And I think, Bill and Dana, the big picture should not go unnoticed. Some people, mostly my Democratic colleagues, have chosen to support the bureaucracy and the spending porn over the American taxpayer. These are the same folks who chose to support illegal immigration over the rule of law, who chose to support teachers' unions over schools and kids.
What do I mean by mandate? Just meaning that it would be required, that you do so.
Who chose to support criminals over.
There's a directive by the federal government to do it, then you would have no choice.
Crime victim.
You know what they used to do? Let me show you guys something. All right, see if I can find it. Right. Let's see if I can find it for you guys. This is how they used to do it. Okay. See if I can find it. This is how it used to be done.
The Draft Lottery, a live report on tonight's picking of the birth dates for the draft. Here
you would sit here and watch television and wait to see if your birthday gets called. And then that would determine whether or not you're going to war. Quite literally. Not kidding. Hold on, I gotta pull this up real quick. Hold on. Sit here and watch television.
At Selective Service Headquarters in Washington is CBS News correspondent Roger Mudd.
Good evening. It was 29 years ago that the first and most famous lottery number, 158, was drawn as the United States entered World War II. Tonight, for the first time in 27 years, the United States has again started a draft lottery. And the famous first pick tonight is September 14th, the first birthday that now is designated 001, which means for 19-year-olds born on September 14th, that beginning in January, local draft boards will induct those men born on September 14th, barring deferments. The next birthday in order, April 24th, and so on down the line this evening.
Pursuant to the executive order, the director...
Literally your life, and like, you're pretty much... This is Vietnam, so you know if you get drafted here, you're dying. That's all there is to it.
Selective Service is going to establish tonight a random selection sequence for induction for 19...
People, this was 1969. This is not that long ago. Okay? Like, we are not far removed from this. Totally capable of coming back. People would avoid it in different ways back in the day. So like if you were a wealthy person or if you had connections, you would be able to speak to a doctor and a doctor would say, hey, they have this particular ailment or they have this particular disease or blah, blah, blah. That was one way to get out of it. Another way to get out of it was you were in school, you were in college, right? That was another way to at least temporarily get out of it. Another way to get out of it was you could run. You know what I mean? You could run. But then, of course, you're going to be wanted. Jeremy, thank you for becoming a Muppet Masher, Jeremy. Appreciate you, buddy.
1970. I will ask Congressman Perney to come forward. Congressman Perney is representing the United States, the military...
I want you guys to think about this. You're 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. You're 18, and you're sitting in your living room watching them about to announce your birthday, and you know you're going to Vietnam.
Affairs Committee of the House, and he also is a senior Republican president who has been the watchdog committee of this selective service system, and we're going to ask him to choose the first.
Kimmy says, my dad was drafted in Nam, he was 17. And, I mean, look, like, thankfully he lived, right? I'm assuming he lived because he had you, but that's, a lot of people, it's like, you know, they went, their names were called, and they never came back. It's scary stuff. Been watching you since the early days of TikTok. Glad to be here on YouTube. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, we're expanding now, Jeremy. TikTok is going to be dying probably within the next couple of months, so it's time to get ahead of the curve. But that's not the reason I left. I left because of the fascist shit. I'm not one of these people that is like, no, there's no way I'm giving up my cash apps. I'm going to keep participating in fascism. Once they did the fascist shit, no, see you later. Fuck that.
September 14th. September 14, 001. Mr. Paul M. Murray, Rhode Island.
Jesus, this is scary, dude. Can you imagine? Dude, put yourself in the shoes of a 18-year-old watching this. 17-year-old.
April 24th.
April 24 is 002.
December 30th.
December 30, 003.
February 14th.
February 14 is 004.
February 29th.
This evening, this has been a very systematic, almost mechanical lottery, the first really nationally televised lottery we've ever had. There's been little excitement here, but for one or two brief occasions, 4 or 5 of the Youth Advisory Council members declined to participate, claiming that they thought they were being used by the Nixon administration to give a youth approval to the lottery system. The representative from the District of Columbia stepped up to the microphone and said he was refusing to participate. The young man from Indiana got up and said while he approved of the lottery, it was not an end in itself and that he hoped for an even better system than this. The main information we have this evening, of course, is the order of the birthdays. And those will determine how the 19-year-olds next year, those from 19 to 26 will be subject to the draft. So let's go down the list and give you the ascending order in which they were drawn tonight. We'll take them in blocks of 5, from the lowest number up to the highest. September 14th, April 24th, December 30th, February 14th. October 18th, September 6th, October 26th, September 7th, November 22nd, December 6th, August 31st, December 7th, July 8th, April 11th.
Is this not fucking terrifying, dude? Holy shit.
July 12th, December 29th, January 15th. This is ascending order. Each man posts them as they are given to him. Number 18 is September 26th, November 1st, June 4th, August 10th, June 26th, July 24th, October 5th, February 19th, December 14th, July 21st, June 5th, March 2nd, March 31st, May 24th, April 1st, March 17th, November 2nd. These are in ascending order. It is generally agreed, stipulated by the Selective Service people, that those men with the lowest numbers, the lowest third, will be drafted. So for number 35, it is May 7th, August 24th, May 11th, October 30th, December 11th, May 13th, December 10th, July 13th, December 9th, August 16th, August 2nd, November 11th, November 27th, August 8th, September 3rd, July 7th, November 7th. The middle group, that is the group with the numbers between about 120 and 240, stand about a 50-50 chance of being drafted next year. Number 52 is January 25th, December 22nd, August 5th, May 16th, December 5th, February 23rd, January 19th, January 24th, June 21st, August 29th, April 21st, September 20th, June 27th, May 10th, November 12th, July 20th.
See how easy it is? Guys, this was only 1969. This wasn't even that long ago.
5th, February 12th. The highest ranking numbers, that is from about 240 to 366, apparently.
Yep, exactly.
From all the Selective Service says, will probably not be drafted in 1970. Of course, there will be another call in perhaps November of next year.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, the answer to your question, you know, it could literally, you know,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It could happen.
I listened to my colleague and friend from Wyoming, and I'm struggling to understand his point of view. He announced at one point that the Republicans were in the majority in the House and Senate. Well, that's a fact. I know it. You do as well.
Scary stuff. Scary stuff. I think it's totally a possibility, too. Like, that's what's kind of horrifying. You know, you sign up for selective service. I don't know what, like, I don't know. Like, I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't let my child go. I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that doesn't fucking happen. You know, I don't care. You know, I 100% am not allowing that to happen under any circumstances. So this was the clip I was talking about earlier, that we were talking about before, and I want people to hear this really quick because I want to say something about this.
President Trump refusing to say, this was pretty stunning, refused to say that his vice president is his successor. I mean, this is the person where if Trump falls down dead would be the president in that moment, right? But he is refusing to say that J.D. Vance would be his successor or that he would endorse him in 2028.
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that it, you know, I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
Except for, again, if something happened to him, J.D. Vance would be the president because he's the vice president of the United States. Van Jones is out front now, former special advisor to President Obama. Tim Pawlenty is the former Republican governor of Minnesota.
Wouldn't even endorse him. Let's see their take. I'll give you my take, but I want to see what their take is.
And I so much appreciate having both of you here. We need the wisdom and the counsel and the gravitas. So, Van, just in this moment, why do you think Trump would hesitate? I mean, I know it sounds kind of stupid what I'm saying, but it is true. If something were to happen to Trump, he has picked J.D. Vance to be the president of the United States in that instance. So he should be happy to say.
Well, during World War II, they were taking just about anybody. Yeah.
He's his successor.
Well, the Constitution says he's a successor, so Trump, so Trump might want at least.
Fair point.
But obviously, going along with the Constitution isn't his strong suit.
Look, we're still going off the Constitution? Oh, Van Jones, you don't actually think these people care about the Constitution, do you?
But that's Donald Trump. He likes for people to vie and contend for his affections on a daily basis. So he's never going to give anybody whose last name isn't Trump the permanent imprimatur. That's just not his style. So again, he's the king. He's not the president. You got to remember, in his mind, he's the king, and he has a court of courtiers. And J.D. Vance is just another courtier. The fact that literally the lawful successor to the president is not going to bother Donald Trump.
I think that's part of it, right? Like, he doesn't trust J.D. Vance completely, true. But I also think that he's not ready to endorse someone because he's not sure that he doesn't want to do it. You know what I mean? He's not sure that he's not going to run again. Until he's sure that he can't run again, then he might start talking. But he also doesn't want to create a conversation where people are talking about anybody but him. If he was to endorse him at that point, then he would just be nonstop like, yeah, he's great, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? The media would be talking about J.D. Vance is going to be the next president. You know, it would create headlines, and they wouldn't be talking about him. He wants them to be talking about him. That's what he wants.
Governor Pawlenty, I mean, who do you think Trump sees as his successor? Why would you answer a question in that way? It doesn't give confidence for those who follow Trump in the guy that he has chosen as his vice president.
Well, a couple of things there. And first of all, it's tactically, I think, very smart for Trump to play it this way because a third or more of the Congress thinks they're future presidents. And if you need them to pass your legislation, work with you, you don't want to slam the door to their future aspirations, as delusional as they may be. And as somebody who ran unsuccessfully, I can speak to those kinds of things. But by the way, and then secondly, he may have other plans. And I think he's saying it's too early. We can't make an early judgment on Vance in terms of the party. And secondly, what if he has a family member or somebody else in mind that he wants to keep in the bullpen?
Thank you. Hold
so
on.
there could be a lot of...
Wow, thank you. I didn't see this. Sorry, let me get this. T.U. Fell Hund, 1969, gifted 5 memberships. T.U., thank you so much. I think I'm saying that right. Tufel Hund, thank you so much. Gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate you, Tufel Hund. I think I'm saying that right. 1969. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. LVZ No Buck Dancing says, appreciate your work. Family keep mashing on Muppets. Have an uncle who never talks about Vietnam. LVZ, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. I was reading something. Thank you so much. You're 100% correct. 100% correct. People who served in Vietnam, a lot of the time they don't talk about it because it was nasty, you know. It was really... I watched a documentary on Vietnam the other day. I'd love to watch with you guys one day, where I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but it follows this platoon in the middle of Vietnam, right? And these guys are walking around, and they all except one ends up dying towards the end. I don't know what they call the leader of the platoon. It was a staff sergeant or something, but he was leading the platoon, and they were terrified. They were absolutely terrified. Like, these were kids, dude. Like, when you see them now, they're kids. So thank you, LVZ. No buck dancing. Appreciate you. And Tiefel Hun, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Appreciate you, buddy.
Just pieces on the board here that he's thinking about that we don't see.
Yeah, well, interesting. You both bring in the issue of family members. Van, this comes as, again, Trump.
Was Vietnam worse than World War II? I don't remember what school taught. In what way? Not in terms of, like, life lost, no. But was it worse? So the thing is, we won World War II. You know, I think that would be classified as probably the last war that we won. Vietnam, we didn't win. We were unprepared, number one. They had really sophisticated bunkers, holes in the ground, traps. They would create traps, people, with spikes on them, and they would put feces on the end of these spikes. So not only would you fall into a trap, think about a hole in the ground with a bunch of like sticks, sharpened sticks in the ground. You would step in that hole through the leaves, and your leg would get cut open by these spikes. They would cover those spikes, those sharpened pieces of wood, with feces. So not only would you cut your leg open, you would get an infection, and you would die. This is how they fought jungle warfare. They were in trees. They had really sophisticated tunnels, right? I'm not just talking about a tunnel with, you know, one side and then you can come out the other side. I'm talking about deep tunnels you can sleep in, but those tunnels also had traps in them. Little places where you could fall in the water. Spikes would come, all sorts of stuff. Really crazy stuff. That happened in Vietnam. If you haven't researched the Vietnam War, I highly recommend doing so. I'm not as educated on Vietnam as I am World War II. World War II is more my thing historically, but I do know a little bit about Vietnam, and I do know some of the tactics they used to win that war. Horrible war crimes committed by the United States government and the U.S. military in Vietnam, by the way. Just saying. Horrible war crimes. But Vietnam was bad. But it's not comparable to World War II in terms of life lost. I mean, you're talking just from the Holocaust alone, 6 million plus Jewish people, 6 million plus people were unalived. So life lost, not comparable. But we did lose that war. We absolutely did lose that war. And a lot of young guys died during Vietnam, unfortunately, for nothing, We invaded Vietnam partially under this, this idea that communism, we told the American people this anyway, that wasn't the real reason, but that communism was coming to the United States. If we didn't stop the ball rolling, the ball of communism from rolling, that eventually it would come to the United States.
Is musing that he could go for a third term.
It's McCarthyism.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the third time. I think it might be at least the fourth.
Okay.
Right? So it keeps coming up. Here's at the National Prayer Breakfast last week and in Doral.
And I do that despite the fact that they say
they did get treated like crap when they got home, and there was a lot of criticisms. A lot of the American people didn't believe they should have been there. It was a war that was highly protested. World War II, you can argue, was justified, right? Because it was not only stopping Hitler, but you were, stopping the Holocaust.
I can't run again. That's the expression. Sure. Then somebody said, I don't think you can. Oh. I've raised.
So here it is. He's 100% floating the idea that he's going to run again. This is so, oh my God. When I watch these clips, it's hard to just go to work and pretend like everything's okay. Like when you watch these clips, it's hard to just go into work and be like, yeah, everything's fine.
And I do that despite the fact that they say I can't run again. That's the expression.
They say. Who's they? The Constitution?
Sure. Then somebody said, I don't think you can. Oh. I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know.
I've been to that wall, buck dancing.
I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again, Mike? I better not get you involved in that argument.
What's the purpose of this?
I just think he likes to piss off liberals more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Van. I think it's much deeper than that. He does like to piss off liberals, but it's much more than pissing off liberals. He actually intends on... He's floated the idea of eliminating the 22nd Amendment. He's going to do it. He's 100% going to try and do it. He's trying to see how many people would support him in a movement to do so. I don't think if he sees a tremendous amount of opposition, he might not do it. But I think if he sees some support, it entirely depends on how he does this term from the Republican Party. He will attempt to do it.
But I also don't think that he has closed the door in his own mind. Don't forget, Putin, his love idol, Putin, figured out a way to sneak back in. He let somebody else, be the president, to be in charge. Some people are saying he's going to let Vance run for president, but Trump will run as vice president. You see?
Oh, well, that would be the Putin-Medvedev model.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't think that Trump is accepting this as his last election. The Constitution says he can't run for president again, but he might say, well, I can run for vice president. So you never know with this guy, but I think the main thing he likes is us talking about this and not all the other unconstitutional, illegal, and horrible things he's doing.
So can I ask...
Van, that is unconstitutional. And that stuff that he said there was prior to him getting elected. So I got to disagree. That's not the reason, because the stuff that you just saw was stuff he said prior to getting elected, I believe. The thing he said about J.D. Vance, I think, is more or less proof that he intends on trying to maintain power. It's just not something we can worry about right now because we have so much other stuff to worry about. Like this term just started, so I can't stand Van Jones. Van Jones is a liberal, so if you're farther left than that, probably won't be a huge fan.
To Governor Pawlenty, Senator Ted Cruz in 2014, right? The precedent of a president of picking and choosing which laws to follow is a dangerous precedent. There's going to come another one. He said, might be a Republican, right? And that he's going to stand up to that because that is the right thing to do. It ought to concern all of us. That much power in the president is dangerous. And then he came out today and he did that little TikTok video type of thing, talking about shock and awe and laughing, and he was giddy and as if he had never said any of those things. And I don't want to make this about Ted Cruz, but I just want to ask you, are you surprised that people could be so firm on principle and then suddenly be doing such an about face? He's certainly not alone in that.
Aaron, if you can show me the member of Congress who hasn't flip-flopped on a substantial issue or statement from the past, I'll give you $1,000. They all do it all the time.
So this is a good question in chat. Wouldn't that eliminate his ability to run for vice president? So this is kind of complex because what Republicans like to argue, let's make this super clear. What Republicans like to argue, okay, because this is what they do with everything, not just the 22nd Amendment, with everything, is they argue if something is not explicitly stated in the Constitution, then it's up for interpretation. So, for instance, right, the 22nd Amendment limits a person to being elected president no more than twice. But it doesn't explicitly address eligibility for the vice presidency, right? You have the 12th Amendment, no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president. So that kind of more or less, rather than the 22nd Amendment, implies that anyone who cannot serve as president is also barred from serving as vice president. But I'm gonna tell you again, because it's less than explicitly stated in the 22nd Amendment, they're going to try and dispute it. But yes, the Constitution, and it's been interpreted this way forever, would prevent you from running as vice president.
Time. It's, you know, they live and breathe, they flip-flop. So that's what they do. So I'm not too startled by that. But beyond that, you know, we are in a phase where everybody should take a breath. Most of these court decisions are just to buy the court some time to get proper briefing, proper input from the parties. Right. Then they'll make a substantive decision. Then there's going to be appeals. And then maybe if Trump doesn't follow the court rulings ultimately, then it's a different discussion. But for now, to everybody be saying he's just going to ignore them and violate the law, violate court orders, it's premature at the most, and it may be alarmist. We'll see whether he abides or not. He should. But there's a lot of due process to be in front of us before that happens.
Which is absolutely a fair point. I do wonder, though, Van, if no one were saying anything about it. Right, as if it weren't happening, right? And you know, just to challenge what the governor just said, understanding his point that we have a long way to go in the court process.
You guys want to know a secret? I used to have a huge crush on Aaron Burnett. When I was younger, I used to have a huge crush on Aaron Burnett.
But that is the sound out there, the noise. Does it have an impact on how he will handle it?
Look, I mean, the body language is, I'm not going to respect the courts. I mean, when you have J.D. Vance and you have...
Here's the point, everybody, right? When something's unprecedented, right, it's unresolved, right? It's never been legally challenged. No two-term president has ever attempted to run for vice president. So if this happened, you're talking about legal challenges out the ass, but ultimately a Supreme Court ruling. What's concerning, once again, only as important as who's interpreting it, is whether the Supreme Court would agree with that interpretation if Donald Trump got it in front of the Supreme Court with a conservative majority. That's what makes it scary. You know what I mean?
Have Elon Musk saying what they're saying, the body language is alarming. Now, whether he's actually going to follow through with disobeying court orders and putting us in a real constitutional crisis, that we don't know. Yep. But it would be nicer if the vice president said, of course we respect the judicial branch, of course we want to hear from the judges, and we will cooperate. That is not what the vice president's saying, and that's why people are concerned.
All right. Van, Governor, I appreciate both of you.
When things are unprecedented, when they're not challenged previously, and they've never been, Trump is going to try it. If he's never seen a challenge, he's going to be like, screw it. I'm going to throw it against the wall and see if it works. That's what he's going to do.
As always.
You know, that scares me, though.
We do know that.
That scares me, though. You know what I mean? That scares me. That you have this other thing here, Vance saying judges aren't allowed to control the executive branch. They're calling it judicial overreach. These guys are challenging these norms we've had in place since the beginning of time.
Judges do get to say whether the executive is complying with the law.
Yes, absolutely they do.
Or not.
Why do you think we have this separation of branches of government? Separation of powers?
That's been the case for decades, hundreds of years.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying whether you're complying with the law and then you have these individual district court judges setting effectively broad federal policy that is specifically reserved for the President of the United States. I think we do have a constitutional crisis, and it's being caused by these judges. They're not here to tell us. They're not here to tell us how to spend the money. They're not here to set broad federal policy. That is the president's job as elected by the people. These judges are supposed to be settling discrete, specific matters, not policy setting. I think Vance is right. I think Trump has a point. And these judges want nothing more to continue the lawfare against Trump.
I don't think anybody's going to be surprised to hear that you think Trump is right.
They're doing this on purpose.
However, just on a real important technical point here, one of the main disputes is whether the executive branch can just decide not to spend money that another co-equal branch has.
No, they can't. Constitutionally, they cannot. What? This is fucking ridiculous.
That ought to be spent. So it's not just about forcing the federal government to spend money. It's saying Congress said you need to spend this money this way, and the executive branch saying, no, I don't feel like it, and the courts say you have to.
Well, my answer to that simply is, it is the executive branch's job.
I'll check it out after this, Kimmy. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat.
to figure out how to spend money once it is appropriated by Congress. And sometimes they spend money that's not been appropriated. But the correct political control is between the executive and the Congress, not some random
I want to return
judge.
to that because that is also a major legal question.
Do you really think that J.D. Vance's tweet is only about these district judges?
I think
this is about this is a slippery
it's the
slope
first
because
piece.
they're going to move on to what the next ruling is. They're setting the stage so that they can say that the executive branch has control now over the judicial branch. They're setting the stage.
No,
and for people who
disagree.
think that President Trump has not planned all of this. He pushes the envelope constantly. There was January 6th. He has a myriad of people out there that would support the executive branch being able to rule over the judicial branch because there have been no repercussions. And when there are not consequences and when there are not repercussions, you get away with it.
I get it. You want individual federal judges who hate Donald Trump.
No, I don't.
To tie him up for 4 years.
No, I don't.
If you want a big
Not at
policy
all.
questions decided, let the Supreme Court do it. But in the interim, the executive has to be allowed to govern.
How do we get to the Supreme Court? Can
Just
somebody
appeal,
tell me?
and that's fine. But you can't tie him up until
I don't like CNN, but I like her.
To the Supreme Court.
You can't tie him up.
She says good shit.
To the Supreme Court by the judge.
Can't remember her name.
Ruling, things going to appeal, and then it goes
And in the
up-
meantime, what happens? Trump can't act?
In the
Trump can't
In the
act?
meantime, you're supposed to comply with the court's rulings. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're supposed to comply, but Scott's absolutely right in that the court cannot say you have to spend these dollars today. So as a governor, I dealt with this. We got things challenged in state court.
But that's not what that's not what he's saying.
In federal court, it's all judge shopped, by the way. Judges don't randomly.
This is not. I was never taught this. I don't know why we're now changing this.
Get these cases. There's a reason that these cases are filed in Boston, the Boston court, or a
Rhode
certain
Island.
district, Rhode Island, because they know they're going to get a judge that is politically
Great
favorable.
bipartisan practice as well.
Yeah. Both sides do it. I mean, I think.
How many times that district court and judge one guy in Texas shut down Joe Biden?
But you raised the right point. Should the president, the singular president, should he have to share the presidency with 300 district court judges? No.
What?
But the point, though, you made a really good point that there have been judges that shut down some of President Biden's executive actions, and they understand, the Biden administration understood
And he
the
ignored it.
checks and balances.
The Supreme Court tried to stop me, but they never will.
But not in the way that Donald
Who said
Trump
that?
is.
Who said
Not
that?
in the way that
Joe
Donald
Biden.
Yeah,
Joe
but
Biden.
Donald
Trump
Scott,
has-
he actually didn't ignore it.
He
That's
did.
right.
They continue to plow forward with
No,
student
he
aid. How
didn't.
much did they spend?
Let me set the record up.
We actually got dinged on
I
the student loan
hated
debt
the student
forgiveness.
loan forgiveness policy.
What did he say out
Hold on.
loud?
I thought
What
it
did
was.
he say
I
out
thought it
loud?
was a ridiculous
didn't
policy.
ignore it.
I thought it was unconstitutional. I predicted.
Totally disagree. Don't believe it's the student debt policy. I was not unconstitutional because under an emergency situation, the president has the authority over the Secretary of Education.
It would get struck down. It did get struck down, and I
didn't
applauded.
ignore it.
Yeah, by a conservative majority Supreme Court.
He did not ignore it, though. He went and tried under a different law.
So he ignored
You're
it.
allowed. No,
That's
that's
not ignoring.
That's not ignoring it.
And that
So
is
he was
trying
not
to
ignoring
be
it. He was trying to do it.
He didn't ignore it. He did it a different way. That's not the same thing. This guy's disingenuous.
But let me just understand where you stand. If a district court judge rules in a way that the president dislikes, should the president listen or should the president defy?
If a district court judge tries to usurp the authority of the chief executive of this country, he should absolutely defy it. There's a difference between broad policy decisions and discrete disputes between parties. That's the difference. If I want a policy decided, I'll take it to the
But what
Supreme
about checks
Court.
and balances?
Well, Scott, you're
What
always
about checks?
Thank you. What about checks and balances? Oh my God.
District.
Yeah, they're talking about the original student debt relief plan when those Republican states challenged it. But I always believed that he was capable of doing it. The administration agreed with me, too. I believe that he did have the authority, but the Supreme Court disagreed.
Court judge?
What I
Who
can't
elected
What I
them?
can't get with is you talking in these bizarre, broad generalities.
It's not bizarre.
Every single one of these cases deals with a discrete issue, okay? It deals with funding. It deals with with certain constitutionally or statutorily appointed roles. Every single one of these things is a distinct thing, and they're all being dealt with by different judges. So it's not broad swaths of policy here. When the court says Congress, appropriated this money, you must unfreeze it while we litigate this. Why can't Trump comply with that?
So you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
A judge is saying
for years, and not the president of the United
Scott,
States.
Let me explain
You're a governor,
little bit
you
more.
know.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly.
This only lands to people that don't understand. Like, this guy's speaking to the fucking hillbilly who doesn't understand.
A judge is saying
You don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress.
I have a position on this, and you have an opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying you listen to me because you're not listening and you're making claims that are not connected to the facts. The judge is saying
Maybe you are.
Congress appropriated a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We need to litigate this.
Okay.
While we litigate this, we're going to put a hold on the actions that you took that might be unconstitutional.
So while we
That's
litigate,
part of the process. Why
this,
can't-
I'm
why
a
doesn't
judge
that
and
work?
I'm in charge of the executive branch, and you're not. Forget it.
Yeah,
I totally
you just
disagree.
can't compel the executive branch to spend the dollars. You can't do that. They can't say we're going to start. The
Have
judges
you
are going to
heard
start
of
writing
the
the checks. They have every right to
Have you
hold that.
heard of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974?
Guys, remember I brought this up on Substack. Does anyone remember me talking about this on Substack, the Impoundment Act?
No.
Okay, well, let me play this. let me play
And by the
this.
way, none of your viewers have
Okay,
either.
well,
I have. I brought this up on Substack. The first night Trump did this, I brought up the Impoundment Act.
I'm gonna play this clip for you. This is in Congress. Russ Vought, who is the architect of a lot of this, was being questioned in Congress about the Impoundment Control Act, which actually says that the executive branch should spend the money how Congress appropriated it. Here's what he said is going on right now in the federal government.
Do you believe the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 is the law of the land that you must follow?
It is the law of the land. As you know, the president has run on that issue. He believes it's unconstitutional for 200 years.
And by the way, the Impoundment Control Act includes not just withholding, but delaying. Unnecessarily delaying.
Years presidents had the ability to spend less than an appropriation if they could do it for less.
Once these funds are appropriated, you can't unnecessarily delay the funds.
And we have seen the extent to which this law has contributed to waste, fraud, and abuse.
So,
and by the way, this was in response to, well, particularly Richard Nixon, who withheld funds for programs he opposed. Funds appropriated by Congress, and then Richard Nixon withheld those funds because he opposed those programs, which is why you have the Impoundment Control Act.
Ellie, this is the law of the land. They might be wanting to challenge it, but it is the law.
Right. The Impoundment Control Act says essentially the president cannot block money allocated by Congress. To the power of district court judges, and I understand your point, Scott. I understand the frustration people have when a district court judge blocks a broad mandate from the chief executive, the elected chief executive. Ultimately, you know, the big issues go up to the Supreme Court. But I guess I would ask both of you, what if a district court judge had blocked Barack Obama's DACA plan, the Dreamers plan, right? And he said, heck with you, I'm doing it anyway. Would you be okay with that? Or would you have a problem with that?
No,
Would that be okay?
So again, that's where we're forgetting a key piece of the third branch of government. That's where Congress steps in.
Yes.
Right? You have to remember that a judge can't just say, well, I'm going to arbitrarily block something. They say, I'm blocking it because of this, and Congress can step in and be more specific and more refined if they want to.
Well, how does that work with Congress, who's appropriated funds for all of these other agencies? So it can't work that way. And now the executive branch is stepping on Congress.
If Congress appropriates $20 million for a program, do you, as the chief executive, do I have to spend $20 million on that program?
Well, actually, this is
but
what
do
I'm
I?
trying to. This is why I
Because
brought.
if I don't, what's the number?
I know that
Why
the
not do a bit
impoundment.
of an investigation into it first?
I know that the
instead of-
Impoundment Control Act thing sounds really wonky, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I understand the idea of testing laws. You want to see how far you can go, but
you have to look at the definition of impoundment. Okay, the president's refusal to spend funds that Congress has allocated for specific purposes. Okay.
The question that
it's like unnecessary delays, unnecessarily withholding.
you're asking has been answered by the courts. Okay, the reason,
or even just canceling it altogether.
That the Impoundment Control Act exists is to say that when Congress says we appropriate this money, it should be spent that way. That's their power. They have the power
Every
of the
state in the country, when we pass a balanced budget, and I'll explain what a balanced budget is to
Again,
everyone in
it's a
Washington in a minute.
dispute, but I'm
we don't
saying
spend, this
that
called a
hasn't
lapse.
been proven
There's
in
hundreds
the
of millions of dollars in New Hampshire that intentionally do not get spent on certain programs.
What about-
They're supposed to lapse
what
back
about
into
when-
Okay, so they're missing a very key part here of the Impoundment Act, and I don't think they know how this goes. And the The guy over there that's kind of arguing against the MAGA guy kind of brought it up. He goes, you're forgetting that this then goes back to Congress. The Impoundment Act, from my understanding, requires the president, there's a caveat. If the president decides, right, that there is a justified reason in any way to withhold funds appropriated by Congress, that he must then notify Congress of any impoundment and then provide reasons, right, for a process that then goes to Congress to review and make the ultimate decision. That's what's being forgotten here. There is a process, right? It goes back to Congress. Congress.
Administration says
the president doesn't get the final say. The president can give a reason why. The president could notify Congress and say, this is the reason why I'm rejecting these funds that have been appropriated. But then it's up for Congress to review any impoundments that the president has made.
Congress, you created this agency. We're going to just decide it doesn't exist anymore.
He runs the executive branch. He can decide who works for the executive branch. He can decide who doesn't.
You're arguing this. There's checks and balances for a reason. We have Congress for a reason. Imagine the president had the final say if we got a really bad guy in there, like we do now, and then he has the authority to just refuse to spend these funds because he disagrees with the program.
So Congress creates an agency, the executive says, to heck with it. Congress appropriates money, the executive branch says, to heck with it. Where does this end?
So it ends, you can go back, and I like what they're doing, and they're going to whiteboard these programs out, and they're going to force each of these departments to come back and actually justify their existence, which no one...
Nope, the Impoundment Act, once the president gives a reason for impoundment, this restores congressional power. The power of the purse, ensuring that the appropriated funds are spent the way they were supposed to be. The president does not have the final say, period. This has been the case forever.
And Washington has done for decades. If you want NIH money to go forward, explain to me why, how, and how it's going to be spent.
All right, so the next
That's all. They're
Democratic
going
president
to force
who
them
says
to the table.
ICE is going to just disappear, I expect that the two of you will say that sounds...
I think all of America...
Wow, these guys are just trying to twist the fucking law. They're just trying to twist the fucking law. This is insanity, people. Wish I had the chat up this way. For some reason, my chat got screwed up here. This is this just makes me sick. I mean, literally makes me sick. Guys, I'm going to hop off here. I'll be back on later tonight. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. That last clip just disgusted me. I mean, first of all, I don't even believe that they don't know the answer, but they're trying to twist something that's been in place since the Nixon administration. It's disgusting. I mean, the president cannot do that. Like, you might as well, what's the role of Congress then? To say, yes, Mr. President, please do this for us. No authority? So there's no power of the purse? They don't ultimately control it? Wow, that's dangerous. That's called dictatorship. That's why we have these checks and balances. Thank you for coming, everybody. Love you so much. People who subscribed, members, all of you, I appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you later today. We'll come on here and BS and blah, 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 whatever. But I hope you enjoyed the stream. Oh, yeah, wait. Yeah, well, I didn't have... We could play the Chuck Schumer clip once before I go.
The edge.
You know what? We'll just do it later. We'll do it later tonight. We'll play the Chuck Schumer clip and stuff later today. We'll play it later tonight. I'll do it tonight. All right? I'll do it tonight when I come back on. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful night. I will see you later today. Later this evening. I will see you later this evening. Guys, make sure you hit the bell and turn your notifications on so you know when I'm live. It can be difficult to know when I'm live if you don't turn your bell on and your notifications. The other thing is when I end this stream, everybody, if you could please just go leave a comment on the stream. Once it becomes a video, it's no longer a live stream. The live chat disappears and it uploads as a video. Go leave a comment and hit the thumbs up to try and push the video, okay? I would appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.